include her at all and are just kind of like, which I obviously I know that it wouldn't be ever, but I kind of got the impression that maybe it's the majority of the case that you like don't have the discussion. And I think it's fine to have the ultimate say, but respect your partner enough to talk about it. But you clarified all that earlier, so.
Well, now it's murky again, right? So let's move back. I don't actually have an objection to a man being an authoritarian tyrant from your perspective in his relationship. It's completely non-bothersome to me. I think it's fine.
But you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you realize Christianity is a patristic faith?
I understand that it says that the husband also has duties to his wife too.
Yes,
like
that's
loving
correct.
his wife like Jesus loved the church. And I don't think Jesus screw you.
I'm sorry, did Jesus have to justify anything to the church?
No, but he talked to his disciples.
Sure.
And
did he have to justify anything to them?
No, but that goes back to the last.
So who's the leader?
We don't disagree there.
Okay, so if you're the leader and you say, well, you're leading me wrong, then who's the leader then? You?
If you're a Christian, the leader should be God. So if your husband is not leading in a biblical way, you don't just submit to him and forego God.
Right? Christ?
Right.
Head. The reflection in a marriage of the head is the husband.
Right. So, but
and
if
the body,
he's not leading in a biblical way,
the body is the woman, right?
Sure, but if he's not leading in a biblical way...
That's not what Paul says. Paul doesn't say if they're not leading. What Paul says specifically is, even if your husband's not leading in a biblical way, right, you should stay married to him anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Well, that's what he says.
But there's a lot of contradictions when it comes to this. And
well, then how could you... Honestly, how are you going to tell people what they should do as Christians then if you believe it's
Paul had
contradictory?
More contradictions toward all of the other disciples than any of them. So, but
there's no contradictions.
You don't think?
No.
Okay. We should take notes on all the things we're going to come back to. Maybe not on here, but I'll find your Twitter.
Every biblical contradiction can easily be reconciled. And most of it is because you don't have contextualization. You read the Bible like it's an IKEA manual. It's not. Right? You have to
I don't read the Bible that way.
Yeah. I mean, how else could you read it?
You read it like it's the living word.
Of?
Everything.
What does that mean? What? You're the interpreter, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how else would you read it other than an IKEA manual?
Well, you have to read it with like historical context, who it's being spoken to.
Okay.
All of the things.
Okay, so then you would agree that these contradictions that you state can be easily reconciled.
I think usually I'm not a biblical scholar, so I can't pretend that I know all of them.
But when it comes to Paul, Paul said stay married anyway, right? But here's why he said that. He said because even if you're staying married to this person who's fallen away, the chances that they find their way back is much higher. So here's the thing, right?
Then, like, what if they don't?
Here's the idea. The idea, and I'll just give you the logical exercise, and you can see if you can correct it or hand it back to me.
Okay.
The idea is this. There can only be a leader, one leader. You agree, right?
I think...
if you're both leaders, then neither are leaders.
I think we can tag team on different topics, but I'll bite here.
Yeah,
sure.
so, okay, if you're a 4-star general, you're not in charge of another 4-star general, but you're in charge of all 3-star generals, right?
Okay.
You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one leader. And then here, there's one person who's following the leader, correct? You agree with that? Okay, so anytime the follower of the leader says, you aren't leading me right, so no, who's now in charge? Who's the leader now?
Okay, so but let's say in one example, let's say the Christian husband suddenly becomes pagan and is like, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to church.
What did Paul say?
Yeah.
He said to stay married, but
he might stay married, but that doesn't mean that you have to follow the leadership in that regard, though.
I think that, and this is explained very well in Orthodoxy, and the reason I bring up Paul is just because I think it's really funny to use that example against people who are naysayers, but it has to comport with reason. And so reason, your husband can't tell you to sin. He can't tell you to go do a gangbang.
Exactly.
He can't tell you to go blow. He can't tell you to go blow other men for his own personal amusement. He can't tell you to do any of that stuff. Okay, right. Great. What about if he just says, shut up. I'm not going to justify anything to you. What's the sin?
Oh, I'm not saying it's sinful.
Well, then what's the problem? You just don't like it, right? That's the problem.
It's not going to work for me.
Yeah, you don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, is like it's not a sin. You can't point to anything he's doing wrong, right? It's just you don't like it. And so when people say, "Well, that's not very Christian," when I point out, I'm going to give you the 2,000 years of history where it sure looked pretty Christian. I would just like to note, how is it not?
I mean, I guess technically it could be, but I was speaking in the context of like your relationship dynamic, and
What
me,
would my personal
I
relationship
guess it doesn't
dynamic
matter
have to do
too
with
much,
anything?
but that's where the initial thing came from, because I heard you say that and I was like, "Oh, are you really like, are you really doing it?"
Yeah, sometimes I'm an absolute tyrant. I'm like,
I believe it.
I go, I don't care. Sometimes I
believe it.
don't care, and that's fine. I don't have to care. So the thing is, but I'm going to take this a step further and say that men who are running their marriage, right? If they are like, look, I really don't want to consult you about, I don't know, almost anything. I don't actually see a problem with that.
Do you think that maybe that contributes to like divorce rates and the fact
Well,
that women
first of all, I
file,
don't
like,
even think it
90% of the
happens
time?
that much.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay.
In fact, I'd say if it happened more, it would decrease divorce rates probably.
Well,
If they were like, if they just came in and gave a patronizing pat and were like, oh, honey, shut the up, it's under control, right? I think it would actually decrease divorces rather than coming in and
well, I
being
can't
like,
argue that
being
hypothetical.
being like, I have so much anxiety from work, right? Just saying.
Oof. I mean, I don't fully disagree there, actually.
See?
I think this brings up the cultural topic that's kind of rampant on TikTok right now, and it's that women don't want to have to make decisions. It's the idea of the passenger princess. Like, you want to be able to sit pretty and like let the man lead. So I think there's kind of merit to both of what you're saying. But
I mean,
get
and
what
I
he's
agree with
saying
that too.
Yeah.
The one person that I did go on dates with, it's because they were like, we're going to go shooting at this time. Make sure you wear closed-toed shoes, whatever. And as a mom who also solely is the sole financial provider, you're right. I don't
You don't
wanna
have to think.
Tell me what we're doing. But do it nicely, because I'm not going to deal with a condescending asshole either.
The tone. Oh, I can't take the tone. Oh my God, the tone.
I mean, I don't.
It's terrible. I'll wake up in the middle. I'll wake up in the middle of the night though, and like smack you and be like, "Oh my God, I had a dream you were cheating." It's like, oh, the tone's fine then, right?
No, I don't do that shit. But
Come on.
do you listen?
You've never done that shit?
No, but do you listen
Okay,
to Bill
whatever.
Burr? Because you kind of like, you seem like you listen to Bill Burr.
I like some Bill Burr stuff.
Yeah, okay. You just like go into like you kind of sound like him sometimes.
Well, I mean, great minds think alike.
Agreed.
I'm sorry that he stole tons of my comedy bits and has taken them on the road, but I'm not going to hold it against him.
Okay, fair.
Right?
Going to Yeka, is that how you say your name?
Yes.
Okay. You had perhaps a disagreement. You said that, I think that if you are wanting a traditional relationship with someone who wants to live a biblical life, just because you have a dark past with a high body count, our Father has given us the gift of forgiveness. If you are living a new life, if you're living a new life and have been living a new life for years, that's what should matter. So here, I'll start from the beginning. Just because you have a dark past with a high body count, our Father has given us the gift of forgiveness. If you are living a new life and have been living a new life for years, that's what should matter. Nobody is perfect.
Yeah, I think, God gives us the opportunity to be born again and be new people. And, if you've been living a new life, you let your old self die. I think everybody should deserve, another chance. Nobody's perfect. We all struggle with different things. And like I said, I think we all have an opportunity to let our old selves die and be a new person if we are living in Christ.
Yeah, sure. I think that being forgiven for those things is not only appropriate, but what Christians are called to do, right? Is to ask for forgiveness for their sins, right? That's what they're supposed to do. But you wouldn't say a Christian's obligated to in any way date or not reject a woman based on body count, right?
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, so
I'm
like
just saying
if
that
a
everybody
guy
should
was a
have that
Christian and he met with a Christian woman and he really liked her, he thought she was great, but found out that she had slept with 50 men. And he was like, well, that's a deal breaker for me. You don't have an objection to that, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, so then in some ways I think that this is just a cope position. And the reason I think it's a cope position is because what happens is many of these women go from literal online whoredom where they're like doing boy-girl content on OnlyFans, things like this, and they go, oh, well, shit, it's 30, time to get married, drop out of that, and then move over and say, now I'm a Christian. But then they get into the dating market as a Christian, and these men are like, well, I'm still not interested in you even though I'm a Christian. right? Aren't they still setting themselves up for massive failure here? Like, sure, God forgave you. Great. And I'm glad you're a Christian. I'm still not dating you, right? Isn't that what they're going to say?
I mean, like, even with age, that stuff makes you less optimal than dating. Like you were saying, your childbearing years are when you're younger. So, I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really understand what the point is then. Like, they understand. I mean, Christians understand the forgiveness aspect, right?
Yeah, but not everybody has a perfect past. A lot of people were raised with traumatic life events where they didn't have both parents in the household. They didn't know, what being loved by both parents was, or, grew up with a bad past.
I agree with all that.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I don't know. I
think it's probably in reference to the episode that I was on where the girl, like, became a Christian, and then Brian's like, kind of late now. Like, I think that's probably less of like the Christian.
He was probably so if it came to this idea of sexual dynamics, then just becoming a Christian is not going to erase your sexual history.
I think pretty much only Christians will be the ones, if they hold that view, that would kind of like be forgiving of it.
Oh, they'll forgive it. That doesn't mean that they're gonna. That doesn't mean that they're gonna put a ring on it, though.
Right, and they don't have to.
So is that it? That's your position?
Yeah.
So when you say forgive, like, okay, so you can be forgiven through your faith or whatever, but you think it's like objectionable if men would refuse to date you because of your dark past of a high body count?
I mean, I'm not saying it's objectionable. I just think that other people with similar pasts look at it like it's bad, like, oh, you can't do that, but I can do it, kind of like thing.
So why would that be a problem?
It's it's saying that women can't have a bad past, but the guy can have a bad past. Like, I don't think that's...
Well, I mean, it's so this just comes down to preferences, right? So it's like this idea is, okay, let us assume for a moment you have a man, he converts around the same time you do. Let's assume inside the hypothetical that both of you slept with 1,000 people, okay? Not saying you have, of course not. I'm just saying in the hypothetical, we're just like assuming this, right? Doesn't even have to be you, just woman, man, both of them slept with 1,000 guys or people. They converted at the exact same time. They meet each other. They like each other. They both find out that the other one has slept with 1,000 people. It's a deal breaker for the guy, not for the girl. Says, well, wait a second. You slept with 1,000 too. He says, yeah, but I don't care. I still don't want to date you based on the fact that you have. I still don't actually see a problem with that. Like, I can't figure out what the actual issue with that would be.
I mean, I guess everybody has their own preferences, but I don't think it would be okay if both people have similar dark pasts and one person's like, no, I don't. It's okay that I did it, but it's not okay that you did it.
Well, no. Well, you're both starting from the same slate, though. So you both have been forgiven for the sins, right? So, and you're both pursuing Christianity, Christian ethics, right? Okay. So you're starting equal. So he just says, okay, based on your past, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's okay.
Why is that not okay?
It's kind of hypocritical.
Yeah, but so what? Why can't you be hypocritical in dating preferences?
Because I think you should hold your...
I definitely 100%, right, think that if you've ever slept with a guy, right, that it would be a deal breaker with you if a guy ever slept with another guy. Would that be a deal breaker?
If a guy that I slept with...
If a guy slept with another guy, would that be a deal breaker for you?
Yeah.
Have you ever slept with a guy? Fucking hypocrite. You tell me, have you ever slept with a guy? Hypocrite. Have you?
Yeah, but not with somebody of the same sex.
So what? You still slept with a man, and he slept with a man. Why would that be a deal breaker, hypocrite?
Because one involves homosexuality and the other doesn't. Andrew,
well, wait
you're
a second.
Better than
wait.
this.
Are they both sleeping with men?
Weak argument.
Are they both sleeping with men?
You can do better.
I'll refute it.
One has to do with homosexuality, which doesn't align with Christian values.
Okay, wait a second. That wasn't my question. My question had nothing to do with Christian values. My question was, would you ever date a guy who slept with a guy? Answer is no. Okay, but he's expected to sleep with you who slept with another guy. It's like, okay, that would be hypocrisy. Tell me how it wouldn't be.
Because she probably wants men who are attracted to women.
They could still be attracted to women.
She would, okay. Are they?
Only attracted to women.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what? So we could reduce anything that way, in fact. We could just endlessly make reductions.
Sure, but you should probably, can you give a better,
Why do I
more
need to give
closely aligned argument?
As soon as you give a logical refutation of the first argument.
But you were the initial person arguing.
Nope, she was. She said it's a hypocrisy. I gave a counterexample of hypocrisy. You have refuted not my example of hypocrisy.
You're just not accepting that it's a false equivalency.
What's false about the equivalency?
One involves homosexuality, the other does not.
Oh, okay. So anytime that you make an analogy between two things which are hypocrisy, you agree they're always going to be different, right?
Well,
Hang on. You agree with me that anything you compare to anything else is always going to be different than the thing you're comparing it to?
I think you can compare things that are a little bit more closely
Not my
aligned.
question. You're evading.
No, I don't.
Is every instance of hypocrisy is going to be different than another? So anytime you say you're a hypocrite, no, you're a hypocrite, you both have done hypocritical things that are not the same thing. So really don't know where you're...
I think you do know.
No.
But okay.
No.
but in this case, like, I feel like we're like, why would you not sleep with a man who slept with another man? Is it because of the homosexuality, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
talking
okay,
about
okay,
biblical-
great.
I'm
If you
talking
weren't a
about
Christian, would
biblical
you?
living. What's that?
If you weren't a Christian, would you sleep with a guy who slept with a guy? Yeah, probably not. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, but
So-
it's still about the homosexuality.
Oh, wait.
Oops.
The entailment of the homosexuality here would be it's sinful. If you're a secularist, you can't say it's sinful, right? There's nothing,
Well, I
you would
mean,
just say it's gross. It's
Yeah,
gross.
okay, sure.
Say it's
If-
not
if
your
that's
thing.
what you think.
So there's nothing wrong with having the preference of it's gross, even if you've done the exact same thing.
There's nothing wrong with having the preference of thinking
I
something's
agree.
gross.
So her saying this is hypocrisy, great. This is hypocrisy too.
Well, she can also choose to reject him based on his past.
Correct. Same. Even
Like-
if she had the exact same equivalency.
Like I would do it if the compatibility was there enough, but I don't necessarily want to date somebody with kids. You know what I mean? Even though I have them, so I get it.
How many kids
Fucking
do you have?
hypocrite.
I have two.
You
Damn.
wouldn't date a guy who has kids?
I would if we were like super compatible, but it's not going to be the top of my list by far.
Hypocrisy.
Exactly. Like I'm owning it though.
It's actually fine. Like it's fine to entertain hypocrisy when it comes to dating preferences. I have no idea why it wouldn't be. Like I'll give you a million more examples, right? You probably would prefer to have men who are taller than you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not requiring like 6 foot or anything.
But you would probably like it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you reject a guy based on the fact that he wasn't taller than you?
Not always necessarily.
No? What if he was bald?
No, I like that.
Okay. What if he was like really heinously ugly?
No, I think there should be some physical attraction. Not,
there has to be-
Not. It doesn't have to be like head over heels instantly, but I think there definitely needs to be some sort of.
So you can think of probably all kinds of preferences and traits that you would like, right, to have in the other partner, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's back up and take kind of a bird's eye view. When you're talking about an argument from hypocrisy, the reason that it's fallacious to begin with, like, oh, you're a hypocrite, you should do this preferential thing that I like, is because it actually doesn't make any sense. Because whatever standard you're holding them to, you could easily be held to the exact same standard back, and you would likely be a hypocrite when it came to dating. Like, for instance, you would probably think a guy who has brown eyes, it's okay for him to reject a girl who has brown eyes. Is that hypocrisy?
No.
Why? Why not? Why not?
They have a right to choose what
They
they
have a
like.
right. They have a right to choose based on their preferences, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they both have the same body count, why can't he just still say, no, it's too high?
I don't know. I think that's a different level of standards that people hold to each other. Like, I guess what my take is, it's just a lot of people overlook the forgiveness aspect. And I'm not saying that if you don't want to make that choice to be with that person because of their past, like, I'm not saying that that's not okay, but, you know, I just think that...
Do you think that people who have assaulted children, have SA children, can be forgiven? I mean, they can be forgiven, right?
They can be forgiven, yeah.
You gonna let them watch your kids?
No.
No. So just because you've been forgiven for a thing, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Doesn't necessarily mean that suddenly, oh, well, we're just going to look past what you did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. All right, I'm good.
All right, moving to Bella. Bella, you said you met up with a guy that you met on 4chan/Discord in the hotel to fuck.
Yeah, so I actually like started all of
The
my
4chan to Discord pipeline, really?
Yeah, well, I actually started like my online presence like on 4chan. I basically just posted a selfie and it got a lot of attention, and then I started posting a lot on the same board, and I made a Discord server for myself, and I got a lot of like orbiters or simps or whatever, and one of the guys, we ended up having a lot in common, and I found him attractive, and he was like, would you want to meet up and hook up? And I was like, sure, why not? If you drive and pay for everything, sure. So he drove here and we hooked up, and then he went home.
Okay, cool.
All right.
You said that women have it way easier than men when it comes to dating / getting hookups.
Yeah, I think that because of the fact that men want sex so bad, I think it's a lot easier for women, yes. But in dating in general, also, just because I think it's like a thing in our society, whether it be due to like biological aspects or like, you know, societal aspects, because like men are often the ones courting women, so like women don't usually have to take the initiative. So like, you know, like as a woman, like I never really approach guys, and I think I have it easier in that way. Like men just, you know, like I think it's more common for men to just approach women, and that's what I mean by easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is from your own experience also?
I mean, it's from my own experience, and just like I feel like every woman's experience, honestly. Like,
okay.
But I think it's like I feel like the controversial part is that like I think that there's a negative side to that too, because if you're like an unattractive woman, like men won't really give you the light of day at all. Like they will kind of see you as invisible, whereas like if they see an unattractive man, like they'll still see them as like a peer.
I completely disagree. I think it's actually harder for better looking women. Men don't approach you as often because they are intimidated with getting rejected, and the average or lesser looking women actually get approached more because men don't want their egos to be shut down.
I mean, it depends on like how attractive you are, though. I guess like
depends.
if you're like a 10, yeah, guys will be scared to approach you, but that's because they like admire you so much.
You don't have to be a 10.
I don't know about admiration. I mean, I just think it's a psychological, it's almost like when you're fishing, right? Like you want to draw your line and you want to get a bite. And I think a man's going to go for someone that's more demure and less resistant to their advances.
Yeah, but I guess like you're talking about like average looking women. I'm like talking about like unattractive women. Like I think unattractive women have it really hard because
those are the ones they marry. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, like it's just like because I like when I was like a little bit younger, like I've lost a lot of weight, and like I've like noticed a big difference in just like the way that like men have treated me. And it's like not even in like a romantic sense, but just in like how they treat me as a human. And I think it's because of how they view me, like, or like if they see me as attractive or not, you know?
Okay. But you did say that, you know, you said women have it a lot easier than men when it comes to dating, but a lot of that is a result of the patriarchy.
Yeah. So that's like what I was kind of getting into there is like, I think that the whole thing with women having it easier was like created by men because they kind of view women as like a prize a lot of the time, and it's not necessarily like we're not necessarily like asking for that attention.
Well, right now what's happening in 2024 is beta males actually view themselves as the prize because they're not taking the lead. So like men, for example, who asked you out on the date, who planned the date, to said, we're going to go shooting, like wear this. Those are the alpha males, the ones that don't have to say they are. I am so irritated by these accounts like on Instagram that like have to say they're an alpha male. Like, no, you're actually not, because the true masculine energy just leads. And so I don't necessarily think that women, quote unquote, having it easier was created by men. I don't even think women do have it easier. I don't think either sex has it easier. I think
I definitely think women have it easier.
Maybe certain kinds of women.
I know.
Which ones don't?
Which ones don't, actually? I'm curious, too.
Is it, you said it was the hot ones that
If you have, if a man doesn't have a big enough of a set to handle a woman who's intelligent and smart and attractive and maybe successful, then yeah, it is hard.
You mean
It's a thing, Brian.
Wait, you mean a pain in the ass?
No, because you can be
never talk to you.
You can be successful in your skill or profession and be subservient in your relationship and submit. So I don't think the two should conflict.
Is that something that you usually see with boss babes, that they're very submissive?
I don't want to be a boss babe.
Yeah, I know,
I
but
think
do you
that's
think that women who have careers and are very career-oriented, highly career-oriented, want to see themselves succeed in their careers are usually boss babes? Because that's been my experience. Here's what I don't usually see in women who are super driven towards careers, that they're super submissive to men. Haven't seen that very much. Where are you finding all of these super driven career submissive women? I'd love to know.
I think what happens is certain people have been led in a certain direction because they don't feel they have the option. There aren't enough men that are up to par with Christian values or leading. I mean, there's so many beta males right now. You can agree with that. There's a lot of men right now that are...
my distinction here is like, I think I would agree with you. There's way too many fucking simps, for sure. But when you say a beta male, all right, versus an alpha male, I don't even believe in those categories. Those are bad categories, right?
Well, how maybe society
so these
deems it.
Like the alpha hierarchy, I just think it's nonsense. But like if you're talking about like a sissified man or something like this, sure, right? I can see to that, or a simp or this type of thing. But I'd still like to know this phenomenon of where you're finding all of these really submissive, career-driven women. Like, where do you think all of these women are?
I don't think
There
any
is a lot
women,
of them.
unless you're like a straight up liberal and just delusional, I don't think there's any women who want to be career driven. I think it's the choice that you have because you haven't found any kind of a situation where you're going to be provided for. You're not just going to sit in your dad's garage at 18 and just wait for some knight to come save you. That's just not the reality of the world. And based on the destruction of the nuclear family, that's where we're at.
That's career driven. Then it seems like if you're
think
getting
you
a
have a choice.
career because that's the alternative you have to being taken care of, then that's not you being driven towards career. That's you getting a career because it's the only way that you can make ends meet. Seems like that's something you would give up very quickly if you didn't have to make ends meet. So I don't really understand where that drive is exactly.
I don't understand it either, but I can tell you that my ex, the girl he was with in the years that we were apart, like he offered for her to live with him and him pay all the bills and stuff. And she's like, no, I want to get my PhD. You can kind of like fuck off. And I don't want to have kids either, at least not for many years. I'm just focused on this. And I'm like, hi, I'll live with you. I think it's crazy to not accept that. But, and some of it's just like, you can't, like the reliability of men too. Like you have to just, a guy, I can tell you firsthand, I was married to someone who wanted to be a provider and all the things, and then ended up, well, I can't get into that, but it ended up going left. So that's where the fear comes from for a lot of women. But some women just genuinely don't have that drive in there. And also, ironically, she was submissive to him, and like we're kind of even keel with one another. And I'm more like trad wifey, I guess. And it's also a thing where people assume trad wives are going to always be submissive and just like let their partner steamroll over them all the time, and that's also not the case. Like there's so many variables in all the
this all
relationship
depends on how
dynamics.
you want to define things, right? But tradition, like, how would you even define tradition? It's actually a hard word to define.
What a nuclear family looks like. The man works,
Well, I
pays
mean,
the
you
bills.
wouldn't define tradition as just being nuclear family. Tradition has a specific meaning.
In
right?
regards to dating, though,
Well, I mean, just in general, what would you say tradition is?
following what generations before you did.
Yeah, I think there's some truth. I don't think that captures it, but it kind of has the right idea to be charitable, right? Best way I heard this described was tradition would be experiments that cultures have done that work, right? That's kind of a thing that we would point to as being tradition, like Christmas, for instance. It seems to be kind of this experiment that the culture did, and it seems to work fine, right? It's a stressful time of the year, and we just can't seem to wait for it or wait for it to be over, but it's something that seems to work. Halloween, these different holidays, all sorts of different traditional kind of aspects of American culture, right? Or Western culture, biblical, etc. These are all experiments which work. So what happens when experiments start breaking down, like the liberal experiment, the progressive experiment? People start to look at the experiments that worked, right? And they go, okay, we got to move back to those experiments because they worked. So that's what I think traditionalism is, right? So I think that the modern one wants to have her cake and eat it too. Because at the time that marriages were working, women didn't have a fucking say. Okay, that's the truth. You want to see the time where there was almost no divorce, right? We can show you a time when the happiness index was likely
they
happier.
Couldn't file for divorce, so
They
does
could.
it count?
No, they could.
Like, so you're accounting for like past the 80s?
They could.
Okay.
They could show cause for divorce. Even the church granted divorce for infidelity, things like this. But even in the early 1920s, 1930s, right, 1940s, people were much happier, and everybody you ask in modernity.
Well, they could get a divorce,
hang
but
on.
they couldn't have
I've
a-
asked this question a million times. You think people were happier in the 1950s as they are right now? Almost every time the answer is yes. I think they were. Interestingly enough, women couldn't have the credit cards, though, right? Women couldn't have. They didn't have all this suffering. They didn't have all this shit. Very strange to me, right? Why it is they didn't have any of these kind of feminist ideals, and yet seem to be far happier when they didn't have all this say. So I think when people say tradition, they don't really mean tradition. They mean, I want modernity with this kind of LARPing aspect. The LARPing aspect being, yay, I get to stay at home and not fucking do shit, right? Yay, this is great. But I don't think that's traditional. What's traditional about that? And tradition is supposed to be that you obey. That's supposed to be the tradition. The tradition's not supposed to be egalitarianism in the household. That's modernity. It's the
I don't know
opposite
about
of tradition.
obeying, but
Yeah, right. But why not? Because just the word makes you sick because you've been completely brainwashed, just been worked on your entire life, that obedience to a man, you're every bit as good as him, even though it has nothing to do with good.
there was one of those Burr moments.
It has nothing to do with
I
good,
think-
right?
Well, maybe it's my social programming, but just my personality type in general. But like obey, not a fan. But I am a fan of doing the cooking and the cleaning and all of the things in
That you like to do.
exchange.
Right, but that's
Well, I
not
don't
obedience.
necessarily like to do. I like to cook.
Yeah, but it's not it's not obedience for you to do things you like to do. It's obedience for you to do
Yeah, but-
things that you don't like to do when you're told to do them. That's obedience.
But we could also just say that the nuclear family dynamic works better, and you don't also have to be like totally subservient to your partner.
It doesn't work. What breaks it down is the lack of subservience from the woman. The lack of obedience from the woman is what breaks it almost every single time. This is why, then you tell me, why are they filing for divorce at such high rates? Why are they pushing back against men at such high rates? They're completely disobedient in their relationships.
Looks like you have something on this. Go ahead.
No, I mean,
You agree? Do you
No.
agree or disagree with Andrew?
I don't agree.
Why?
For a few reasons. I don't know.
You want to articulate those?
On what specific points? Like
Obeying,
obeying. Okay, so I mean,
submission.
I don't know. If somebody wants to obey, I just
It's not obedience.
yeah.
It's like, I'll do what you want if I want to. It's like, well, where does the obey part come in?
Right.
Well, I'll follow you as soon as I think that I need to follow you when you when I decide that it's okay to follow you, then I'll
Ryan
follow
from
you.
The Office. But no, but like maybe obedience doesn't need to factor in though. Maybe we could just get back to men being providers and leaders and women being mothers and caretakers
great.
and
You
taking
get
stress off of the men by handling the things that they don't have the time to do if they're
Yeah, that's
providing.
great. You get all the perks and the benefits.
I mean, not all, like I don't think most women also want to cook, clean, and bear babies.
Oh, that's so hard to cook and clean. Look at this.
I don't think it's hard if someone else
So you get
pays
to
bills.
so you get to stay home all day. You get the luxury of being at home with your own children. You don't have to outsource that if you're not lazy and you actually homeschool. And if you're not, your kid's going somewhere else for 8 hours a day. Literally 8 hours a day while you're at home. Oh my God!
No, I literally agree with you on this.
This is terrible. This is horrible.
It is hard.
It's horrible what's happening to women. It's like, no, it's not hard. And
It is hard.
On top of
We
that,
can't totally
you say,
discount
okay,
that.
I get all the perks, all the benefits, but I don't want to do that obedience.
I have a question.
Fuck that obedience thing. And it's like,
And I'm
so
not
that's a
saying
pretty
that-
raw deal for men.
But like also like I can't even imagine a situation where one would need to be obedient because I'm like looking at my boyfriends and like ex-husband and like, well, maybe.
When it matters, that's when.
But like, so give me an example of like what?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, what
In what
extent
way do we
is
need to-
multiple
what
examples.
Like, we
like
could
do you
talk
think
about
you can beat
intercourse,
your
for
wife?
example.
Like, do you think that that's acceptable?
no.
Okay, but like, to what extent do you think she should obey though? Like, what if she disobeys you? Then
Within
what do
the
you do?
confines of reason.
Like, so just give me an
She has
example.
to be obedient within the confines of reason. Beating your wife would be sinful.
Okay, well, if she doesn't obey you, what do you do? What would you do?
What, for disobedience?
Yeah.
Well, the same things that you would do right now. You would try reason, right? You would explain what their duties are, and you would go to your community, in this case the church, to see if you could get this reconciled, right? Because it's a problem.
And what if she continues to disobey?
Well, then there's going to be extreme problems inside of the marriage, and it's going to be a lot of fucking misery. That's what.
But marriage takes work between both people.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that.
It's like somebody doesn't want to do something.
I still want an example of obeying.
There's no disputing. Well, okay. I'm fine giving those examples, right? But when the person asks me a question, I have to give that answer, then I have to give that answer. Now we've circled back to this one. Okay, so
Exactly, circle back.
discipline.
That's right.
Discipline is a great one, right? What if your husband wants to discipline, he wants to use a belt? Can he? Yeah, see? It's
I mean,
like,
I don't
it's
really.
so easy.
Honestly, I'm not. I'm gonna get so much shit for this. I'm not totally against spanking. Like, I think it's got to be age appropriate and it's got to be not.
Yeah, but why do you get to decide that, not him?
Because they're half mine, and it is also my job to protect
Yeah, but
them.
I mean, okay, again.
But I guess that's one example.
This would be
Sure.
disobedience immediately. It's like,
Okay.
okay, no, I think that it is the right age. No, I don't. What if he wants to
Oh,
take
yeah,
him?
I'll disobey.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll move into the kind of like disobedient road, and so this is an easy example. Schooling, extensions of what types of things you'd want them to do. For, let's say, you want them to play music, or you want them to have these curriculums. Maybe you're disagreeing on those things. Ultimately, somebody's going to have to ultimately be the decider, I think. Again, but when I'm talking about disobedience specifically, it's like, no, you don't get to beat your wife. That's insane. Doesn't comport with reason, right? But you can use shaming tactics and utilize the church to assist you in kind of moving and counseling the relationship the right direction.
This is actually, it's below the threshold, but Alvin Sam, this is a great super chat. You have a problem being submissive, but demand chivalry and breadwinners.
Well, that's what I was pointing out already, right? Is that, like, you get to stay at home. You get all the perks of this, but no, as long as I keep getting what I want, you do what I say.
Well, I just think for me personally, it's circumstantial, and I'm willing to budge on a lot of things. Like, I'm not probably as combative as maybe I'm making myself seem, but you're not just gonna, especially because I have kids and they're my kids. So maybe my perspective on it's a little bit different than if we had a shared child. But I'm willing to budge on a lot of things.
Yeah, maybe, right? But that's not really the point. So the point really isn't reduced to, if I think that I should submit because it sounds reasonable, I will. That's beside the point. The point is supposed to be when it doesn't seem reasonable to you to submit, that you will. That's the point.
You said something about the woman benefits, I guess, most if the man's the breadwinner providing, and
Yep.
one thing I want to comment on is if the woman is providing homeschooling to the child, let's just say it's that sort of scenario, because right now a lot of people have issues with the school system.
Yep.
Well, then the man also is benefiting because that wife is capable of providing schooling for the child so that they don't get indoctrinated in the school systems that
Consider
could
this
be
to be the bare minimum. The
could
bare
be
minimum
con-
of duty and responsibility of a good mother is that if she is enabled by her husband to stay at home and homeschool her kids, then she should. That should be a duty. This is not. When I see this idea, it's like a top. It's like somebody spinning a top. It makes no sense to me. It's like, look at this great thing I'm doing. No, this is a baseline duty. It's a baseline duty. You know the public school's fucked. You know they're indoctrinating your kids. You know they're doing horrible things to them, right? You know this. It's like, so you have a duty, if you can, to stay home and, homeschool your kids. You have this duty. I consider that to be a baseline. I would not consider that to be something in addition that you're doing in the benefit of your own offspring.
Agreed,
But
but most
if-
women aren't doing it though.
let's just say he marries someone who isn't capable of doing that. I would love to be able to homeschool my kids. I think it's something that's necessary right now, considering everything that's going on. But I just think that it's unfair to say that only the woman's benefiting then from the man being the breadwinner. There's a dual
No,
benefit
I'm not saying
there.
only. I'm not, never. Okay, so I don't usually deal in monoliths. Sometimes because there are some all statements which are okay, but I don't usually deal in monoliths. So it's not that there's only the benefit to the woman. I'm saying the vast majority of the benefit is to the
Okay,
woman.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Right? The vast majority is to the woman. And the ability, I think, is a gift. I think a man's given a woman a gift that she can be able to stay at home with her own kids. Because I got to tell you right now, you're a single mom, for instance, I bet you wish you were able to stay at home with your kids.
100%.
And so, that's a massive gift to give them.
But not enough to deal with
With actually submitting.
shitty husband.
Yeah, but think about what you just said here, right? See, that to me that's also bizarre to me. I don't understand that. Self-sacrifice for the purpose of your children. I thought you were supposed to be the nurturing ones.
So yeah, well, okay, but my situation's a little bit different. I'm
not saying you have
It
to put
wasn't-
up with physical abuse, things
Right,
like that,
right.
but the concession of just obedience for a better life for your kids, it just seems like it's such an easy thing to concede on, and yet so many women are like, I just couldn't possibly. I just couldn't possibly
But
do
there
that.
are provider men who are happy to involve you in every discussion and there be compromise.
Is there always this idea that because the man ultimately decides, that means a woman's never getting consulted?
Right, but for example, like you talked about the spanking thing, that might be one thing that I take a stand on, and he may be like, okay, on this one. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that men who, he's suddenly, just because of that one instance where he didn't put his foot down.
No, sure, he can make a concession to a reasonable suggestion. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. Has nothing again to do with the fact, though, that what if he didn't? So it's not that, okay, you made a great point about spanking, and he's like, you know what, that's a really good point, and I think that we'll do that. The question is, what if he doesn't? If he goes, I know you think that's a great point, but you're fucking wrong, and I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? That's
I
where
would probably concede on a lot of other things. That is not one.
Right. So it's the idea of the concession with the obedience that you still know better. And so that's why these relationships, I think, break down.
I just do think there needs to be more emphasis placed on the value of a stay-at-home mom who is successfully raising the kids and homeschooling, because the amount of money you'd be spending on childcare and education if you send them to a private school
It's
instead
free.
of
What are you talking about?
No, if you send them to private school, it's not.
Private school.
No,
first of
let's
all,
talk about before
okay.
they
First
even-
of all, public schools, right? You put them on a school bus. If you're under the income threshold, they get a free lunch. They get free breakfast in many of them. They get free extracurricular activities. You have to get them some backpacks and shit. Low-income people, almost everything is subsidized for them when it comes to schooling. Almost everything.
Well, public
Okay,
schooling isn't really free because your taxes are paying for it, and you're costing them the rest of their
low-income
life
people
and being
don't
indoctrinated.
own-
Let her finish.
yeah, okay.
It's just a matter of what you value more. Do you value having a wife who's going to be at home and be a stay-at-home mom and homeschool them and give you that better education? I just think there needs to be more emphasis placed on that, because I knew growing up a lot of us didn't value those moms that were stay-at-home moms, and that's a fallacy.
Most low-income people, first of all, don't pay property taxes. Okay, they may be affected by them, but they don't pay them because they don't own property. Okay, poor people don't own property; they're not paying property taxes. When the levies get passed, they're getting passed by people who don't own property because they're outnumbering the property owners. Okay, that's one. Two, all of them, if they're under the income threshold, it's all free. and the lunches are free. Everything is completely subsidized for them.
What
Totally
about the
subsidized.
first 5 years of their life before they go to school? Because
You're
daycare
not-
is not free,
You're
even
not
if you're low
homeschooling
income.
them, and you're
I
at
am.
home. What are you homeschooling them to do at 5? Watch Sesame Street?
What do you mean? My kids are already, well, my oldest, my 3-year-old is already preschool ready because you do Montessori type homeschooling. You
Yeah,
can absolutely
that's
preschool them
finger
at young
paints.
ages. No, it's not.
Yeah, what's preschool?
What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you learn to do
I
at
can tell you-
preschool? How to lick glue?
My 3-year-old knows all his letters and the sounds of each. He knows phonics. He knows how to count. He knows
Your
all of
3-year-old
his shapes.
can't read.
No, but he knows phonics.
Yeah,
He knows those sounds
because
of-
he probably watches a show where he memorized A, B, C, D,
Nope.
E, F, G all day.
Definitely
You're not
not.
teaching a 3-year-old
their
massive skills.
Yes,
Come
I am.
on.
Their entire. Do I not?
Our kids are-
I literally
both of them are
lesson
very
plan
smart.
for them. I their room is a preschool.
Great.
But that's not the point. The point is the first 5 years you do have to pay for daycare, and it costs
No,
more.
not if you have a stay-at-home wife.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point she's making.
What's the point?
That's
What if
the
your
benefit.
husband
And you're
requires
trying to
that you
say, well, school's free. It's
No,
not.
that's
for
a
the first
gift to
5
her.
years.
She gets to stay home with them the first 5 years.
And it's a gift to him as well.
No,
that
that's not
he
a gift to
doesn't have
him.
to pay for daycare.
Wait, okay, let's back up. Okay, do you think that if the roles could be reversed, right? Like, let's say the average man, okay, a woman was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go and work my fucking ass off every day so that you can stay home with the kids. Do you think that that's a better or worse deal for them? Actual deal.
I would be happy like to do one or the other. I don't care which one. I don't want to do both anymore. So
Better
if I
or
was
worse
the
deal
one-
for him?
For him? Yeah, he doesn't have to work.
That's right.
But it's also good
So
for
hang on,
her
so it's a
because she
better
doesn't
deal
have
for
to-
you because
Then
you
why
don't have
don't
to
you wanna
work.
do it?
I
Why
think
don't
it's
you wanna do it
equally-
then?
I think the point is
Why
that
don't men
it's
wanna do
equally
it?
beneficial and that
It's not equally beneficial.
I think it is, and I
It's
think
not.
that whoever the stay-at-home partner is who's investing in the kids often goes underappreciated, which I think is her point. And that's what she's trying to
No,
bring
I don't think they're
awareness to.
underappreciated. I think that there's an
Yes, they
overemphasis
are.
put on them over the working father. And that the
And I
truth
don't think
is
that's
that
fair
the
either.
working father is the one who enables all this to begin with and is giving the greatest gift in the world to a mother, which is those first 5 years, you know they're not coming back. You never get them again. You already miss your 3-year-old. You miss when they were 1, and you're already thinking about all the shit that they did at 1 that you miss. Oh, I miss when they did that. I miss when they did this. Now they're getting so big. You had the great gift of being there for that entire spread of time.
Yes.
And it's like, what does he get? Nothing.
To save money.
He get, oh, no, well, not
Yeah,
really. By the way,
that's huge.
if he is